Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to have a really fun, simple, easy card created using this stamp set, which is the Winter Scenics stamp set. Now, specifically, this is around silhouette stamps. Now, silhouette stamps are more solid images, and these ones are printed in black on the front here, so you can it really does feel like they are silhouette images. They are very solid, and I want to make them not silhouette. I want to bring them to life. So you can see here, even if you took the snowman out of this image here behind my finger, then this could be used for any time of year. It's simply got people and a dog in it. And this one down the bottom, again, the fence palings with the bushes are really good as well for any time of year. I am going to take the deer and I'm going to use these as well. Now I'm starting off, I have two sets of dies here. This one here is the Indented Stitched Rectangles from Elizabeth Craft Designs. I warned you that this would be coming up a lot. It's going to be in a lot of videos. This is my favorite. I am going to use this a lot because I think this gives me a little bit of something extra to my pretty plain cards. Now I have run that through, the second smallest one, through my die cutting machine. This makes it just shy of my 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base that it will be going on. Then I also have my circle stacking dies. I have the Hero Arts Infinity dies, but there are lots of companies that do these out there, so get the best deal for you. But I do love these ones. I love that they are so close together in stacking sizes. That's the main reasons why I lead towards these ones. Then I'm going to put the circle up the top, kind of in the middle. Although I am just eyeballing it, I'm aiming to have the top, the left and the right hand sides all have roughly the same distance. Run that also through my die cutting machine and then we are good to go. Now, as for the scene that we're going to create in the center here, I'm going to use this circle because I know it fits in there perfectly. Now, usually if I think I'm going to be able to see in the sides of my scene, then I would do this on another larger circle or a larger piece of paper behind the circle cutout, if you know what I mean. But because I know that this one you won't be able to see through the sides, even though I am going to give it dimension, I know that I can just use the circle that it came from. Now this is my go-to for some very light background image. I'm using my finger daubers just with the residual leftover ink, and then I've just got a couple of cloud-ish things in the sky, and then a little bit of green. There is no fine blending here. This is not smooth. You don't have to have it perfect. As you can see, mine's pretty blotchy and I'm happy with that because I promise this won't be the focal point at the end. Now I'm going to put this in my stamping platform and this does make life easier. So this is where I want my little fence post and bushes to go. I'm lining up where I think I want my deer to go as well, and then I am going to close the door, pick everything up, and then the way that I am going to bring these silhouette stamps to life is by using finger daubers. Now I also bought some little brushes the other day that would be perfect for this. You could use these too if you needed smaller, more fine detail. I would recommend the brushes by a long way. However, for this it was really just the fence posts and then the bushes. So I felt comfortable using the finger daubers and they weren't going to be too big. So again, I'm just using residual ink. It doesn't really matter about the colors. These are for my Distress Oxide, so I can tell you that. I'm pretty sure this one is Mowed Lawn, and I am going to add a little bit of extra bushes up the side. Now I'm just taking the same stamp, angling it how I want it to be, and I know this kind of seems a little bit funny, but I want it to be a little bit more closed in, and because we're having quite a simple scene, I am going to add a little bit more. So it's okay to kind of change these up and make them look a bit crazy. No one would ever know that this just wasn't one stamp or that we hadn't put together several stamps to create this scene. So usually the silhouette stamps are often stamped in black or a dark color against something, which is what a silhouette is, right, against a lighter background. And I do love that technique. I love everything about it. I use it a lot. However, I'm always here to stretch our supplies, use them in different ways. And to me, this looks like a bit of a scene that you could put together, but actually we've really just used one stamp. So I am going to keep going. I want a few more of these bushes down the bottom, and it's going to look a little bit funny until I do one little thing in just a minute. Now, again, I just keep going back and forth until I'm happy here. I just keep going, add a bit more. If it looks like I need more ink, then I might need to re-ink up my finger dauber. I think at this point I was using some more ink, and I just went for the Mowed Lawn one. I know I put a little bit of maybe Rustic Wilderness in the edges there too. But anyway, so I stamp it down. I end up putting it on an acrylic block because that was just much faster for me. And then at this point, I'm just going to take the actual finger dauber and just put a bit more ink in the bottom there, and it looks a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more filled in right up to that fence line, the gate kind of thing. So I think this is looking pretty good so far. As I said, this card is actually pretty simple. It didn't take me much time at all to complete this. Now I'm going to put my little deer in here, and I am going to take some ink. Now at this point I didn't want to use the black because that didn't feel quite right for this picture. But I think it's more of a case of use whatever you have. If you have a brown ink or a grey ink, or it doesn't really matter what kind, I think this is going to stamp well, especially since we've got it in the stamping platform. It's just kind of a find an ink that you have and you'll be good to go. So these are these small brushes I've been using recently, and I'm going to take a little bit more of that brown ink and just ground these deer with kind of a very light little shadow. Now this is what I'm loving these brushes for. I think I found this a little bit difficult before, but I've been using these with pigment inks, with dye inks, with all sorts, and not having any problems with them. Sometimes obviously the pigment inks stain them a little bit, but that is to be expected, I guess. So once I've done that part, I decided to come in, and this is going to be a Christmas card. Now I like two of the sentiments on here. One of them says wishing you peace and joy, and the other one says we wish you a Merry Christmas. I think it says. Anyway, and I want it to say wishing you a Merry Christmas. Now don't ask me why I make life difficult for myself, because that kind of felt like what I was doing here, but I'm going to be doing a fair bit of careful, I wouldn't say masking because I don't actually use masking for all of it, but I'm going to use a green ink. It is a dark green. I think this one is Rainforest from the VersaFine Clair. I do like the VersaFine Clairs. They stamp beautifully. I am turning my hand right around here to make sure that I don't have any of the words up above. As I said, I wasn't really masking because I didn't use any masking paper or anything, but anyway, I'm stamping the Merry Christmas down the bottom. And then I'm going to stamp the wishing you a up above it. So it's just kind of putting two stamps together. In the end, I'm not really sure why I did this. I probably could have just stamped one of them and be done with it. It would have saved me a lot of time, but that's okay. Sometimes we have an idea in my mind and that's just what I wanted. Now, I know that you may be asking why the picture up above I made looks so summery and beautiful. In fact, I am going to add in some more details which are going to make it a bit more summery as well, and that is because Christmas for us here in New Zealand is in summertime, in the middle of summer. So although I do love making a good snow scene as much as the next person, I love penguins, I love all those little things, I do like occasionally to make a little New Zealand sort of not themed Christmas card, but realistic, a little more realistic, because we don't have snow. In fact, well, I shouldn't say that, because actually it is when I'm filming this, this is the middle of October, and we just had a massive drop of snow. So our spring is pretty changeable, and although it does feel quite late in the year for snow, I guess it can well and truly still happen, so never say never. But at this point, this is when I'm going to take one of those little brushes and add in a little bit of a sun. Now this is just adding some ink in a circle. There is nothing fancy to this. It ended up just a really nice size. I'm able to use those little brushes and add that little sun in perfectly. Now, where it comes to putting everything together here, I am going to pop this up. Now, I have two different sizes of foam tape. Now, the reason that I'm using this, I do like buying two different types from the same brand, because that means they're going to be the same thickness, but their widths are different, and you can see here that this one just fits perfectly on the left and right hand side of my circle here, so that makes life nice and easy. And then I added the slightly wider one around the rest of the edges. Now, if you take the release paper off of your double-sided tape before you put it down, that means you are going to be able to get it around those corners really smoothly and easily without it buckling and doing all sorts of those funny things that it usually does if the release paper is still on. It does mean you have to be a little bit careful because the adhesive is exposed, but it does work very, very well. Now at this point, I am going to keep this super simple. So all I'm really going to do here is add some glue, some liquid glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. And I'm just going to kind of push the circle in. Now, as I said at the very beginning of the video, I know that you can't see in the sides here because of the foam tape that I've put in. Otherwise, I would have done the stamping straight onto the card front because I never like being able to see a gap underneath. But this just looks, it almost reminds me of like the beginning of a snow globe. I love the look with it recessed back like that. I love the white around the border, and I love that little bit of detail from our die cutting around the edge, so all good things. Anyhow, I hope that you have enjoyed this video and learnt some tips along the way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!